Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is your lecture number 2, Terrorism, Motivation and Performance. We begin this lecture in the last class, and we have learned that, motivation is really important for an organization to work smoothly. If you really want to achieve your goals, you need motivated people, and this motivation plays very important role that compels people to go extra miles and work extra hard for your organization, and they are only motivated when they are rewarded and when they are basically are taken care of. So it is a responsibility along with all other responsibilities of a manager to keep their labor and employees motivated so that they could work with their hearts and with their energies. If the people are not motivated, they are not, of course, you will not be able to attain your goals. We also talked about that the money can be an element, but of course it's not the only element. The people also need to be appreciated. Being a part of the winning team, they want to be they want to feel a sense of belonging, and they want to take responsibility. We also talked about the Taylorism. This was the Frederick Taylor's scientific management. They were all initially the people who developed this subject of management. They were all kind of managers because the need of this particular subject or this particular kind of art or science evolved during the industrialization period. When the people were going towards industrialization, there were actually requirement of having a kind of need to have this kind of proper methods and proper uh, techniques so that the people could achieve their targets. So they were all initially the people who have created and who have made these all rules and kind of theories for the management. Most of them were engineers, and these engineers have been able to create this kind of subject, which actually is very famous now. We are going to talk about now in this lecture about Henry Fayol. Henry Fayol again was a French industrialist, born in 1841 and died in 1925. And he was the guy basically who introduced or who actually defined the basic functions of a manager. That what managers have to do if they really want to take their companies ahead and they really want to achieve the goals of their organization. They want to grow, they want to make themselves grow, and they want to make their economies, their countries grow. I'm sorry, their companies grow. They have to have this kind of functions to perform. Like they will have to plan, organize, command, and control. So it is commanding means leading, of course. We also talk about this commanding in the name of leading. He was the guy who delineated these all 5 functions of a manager. And as the time has proven that these all functions are the most important functions that a manager performs. A manager is supposed to make a plan for the projects. He actually also is responsible for organizing resources to take on that plan, and he has to lead from the front. He has to take some lead into the team, and he leads the team to get the objectives of the organization. And if something goes wrong or something goes not correct, he also is responsible for correcting them. So this was the basic idea. And as you must have heard, being a management students earlier on, there are Henry Fayol's 14 principles of management, very famous, very effective, and very important. That if you really want to make a management effective, if you really want to take or achieve your goals, you should follow these principles. And if you follow these principles, that is very much likely that you are able to attain your goals smoothly, and not only smoothly, but you will also be able to create such environment in which you have a very smooth sailing, and you will be actually enjoying, or you will be taking your companies towards your ultimate goals. The very first principle of management given by Henry Fayol was division of work. Like being economic students, you would definitely have heard about the story of Adam Smith. If you remember Adam Smith initially went to a needle factory, where he found that people were working on the needles and they were trying to work on, or they were trying to make the needles. So one person was making one needle. So it means that like one person was completely like working on particular one needle, and he was like the average productivity when they found like there was 40 needles per worker were being produced at that point of time. What Adam Smith realized at that point of time, that if you divide the work and if you create a specialization, like say for example, if one person does a part of the work and the other person does another part of the work, and if they keep doing the same work for all the time, that will create a kind of expertise into the people, and this division of labor will increase the effectiveness and efficiency of the people. And similarly, this principle was explained by Fayol, and Fayol's 14, the first principle of the Fayol is division of work. Like as you can see, into the garment factories or in some other kind of factories, the work is divided between the people. One person does one thing, the other person does the other thing. And similarly, like that particular work is divided into the chains of demand, chains of command, and chains of work. So people actually do different kinds of activities. People perform different kinds of work, and they basically are given a certain kind of work which they keep doing all the time. So this division of work is really effective. It creates efficiency. Like say, for example, if you want to move a pile of bricks from one place to another, there are two ways. Like say, for example, and the first way is that a labor picks up uh, a brick and take it to the other part of the place where you want to take it to. And the other way is like that you make a chain, or one person gives that brick to another person, the another person gives to yet another person, yet another person give it to yet another person. In that way, this will be basically divided, and this perhaps is more effective and more efficient than like the way in which like one person is carrying the brick all the way from one place to the other. So this division of work creates efficiency. It makes people more effective, more productive. And if you go with the technical definition of efficiency is about the like the input over output. Like say for example, how much you actually improve, like you what is the input, what output one particular input actually produces. So this is you can improve the production, you can improve the efficiency of the people if you follow the first principle of division of work. The second is you have to give, like when you give the responsibility to the manager, the responsibility should come with authority. Like it should be, you have to have, like say for example, if you look at this particular bit, this authority is to give orders. You should be able to give orders to your people. Like you should have got the power to give order. Unless you have power, you cannot manage anything. Like the responsibility, if you are giving a responsibility to a manager, if you are giving responsibility to a manager, that responsibility should come with authority. Authority means like he should be able to give order, he should have got the power to give order, and everybody has to follow him. So if you don't give the authority to him, like he will be a very much like a useless or a kind of powerless person, and that person is not able to manage anything for the organization. The another thing is the discipline. Discipline is the key. Like say for example, we have seen that in Pakistan, the only institution that has emerged as an institution and that has become so strong over the time is the institution of military, like or the army. These armies basically have got very much one thing very much common, and that is a discipline. Disciplines in the lives basically, and the disciplines in the work create a lot of opportunities for the people to do work smoothly. So the third principle, according to Henry Fayol, is that the people and should be disciplined. A manager should be disciplined, and if you are not disciplined, like say for example, if your class is starting at 8:15 and you are actually coming late just for no reason because you are in habitual or you're habitual late, so this is very much indisciplined kind of a thing that you are doing. Like, and again, the discipline requires that you actually behave in a certain way. If you are not behaving in a certain way, if you are not behaving in a certain manner, you are not able to attain your objectives. Discipline is the key for any organization to achieve its objectives. If you are not disciplined in your life, you cannot achieve your objectives. Like, say, for example, if you want to be something which you want to, like, which you dream for, and which you basically are very much looking for, and if you do not make your life disciplined, of course you are not going to attain that particular kind of a thing. Now, another thing that basically is very important is the unity of command. Like, as we have a very strong debate, like, that how many gods exist in the world. So of course, like, as a Muslim, basically we have a certain belief that there is no God except Allah, and that is quite, like, quite a common sense, in the sense, like, that the orders that are coming from the one source only. If the orders come from different sources, if there were many gods, if there were many, like, forces governing the nature, there would have been a mess. Like, अगर एक आदमी इस तरह से कहता है आप इस तरह से करें, दूसरा आदमी इस तरह से कहता है इस तरह से करें, that actually causes a lot of chaos. Like, say, for example, at certain point of time in your families or in your houses, your mother is saying for something else, your father is saying for something else. If they are, like, not actually the same direction, if there is not a unity of command, there is not one person basically commanding you, you can basically, like, you will be ending up on the chaos. Like, you will not be able to do anything. So you have to take orders from some one person. And another thing is that your direction should be one only. Like, it should not be in different directions. Like, many of the students, what they do, they try to go in different directions. अब हमारे पास जो है वो basically बड़े unfocused students हैं. Now basically we don't have got the students who have got a focus in one direction. We are having different directions. We don't know exactly that what we are trying to achieve in our lives, what exactly are we going to do in our lives, and how basically are we going to achieve our objectives. We actually go in different directions. Like, say, for example, if you want to go to some certain place, and if you want to reach certain place, and if your direction is correct, if your direction is one, and then basically, like, you will always be able to reach it, otherwise you can't. Similarly, the subordination of individual interest to general interest. Like, sometimes our cricket team struggles. And why this cricket team struggles? Because individual batsmen or individual bowlers care more about his own records than the performance of the overall team. Like, say, for example, if he is going to, like, he wants to get 100 runs, he wants to score a century in the match, and he does it, like, no matter how slow he makes the runs, because he is just looking for his own 100 number, 100 score. He is not taking care of the overall the interest of the team, like, how the team should have played. Should the team play fast, or should the team play slow? So subordination of individual interest to the general interest. Your individual interest are not important as compared to the collective interest. Like, say, for example, the similar thing is very much correct or very much important. As a nation, we basically have got our own interests in our countries, but that interests are not important than the general interest of the people. So the first thing is the division of work. You should divide your work between people and different tasks. You should give authority. There should be authority to the managers. The discipline should be there. Command should be coming from one particular person or one particular source. There, the direction should be one, like, that you should be going. If you have to do this, you have to do this. You have to do this way, or you have to do this way. It's not always 2 or 3 or 4 ways, like, that in which you can ask a person to perform or do things. And similarly, like, the sixth principle is that you should be sacrificing your own interests for the overall interest of the organization. Another very important factor that motivates people is the pay. Like, the pay should be fair, remuneration. Your remuneration, the money that you get, like, say, for example, if you are working very hard at the school or at the college, but you are not getting marks, or you are not getting a return on your efforts, you will be discouraged. The biggest encouragement for the people is their remuneration. That should be, you should be paying people, like, according to their tasks, and the pay should be fair as well. Like, it should not be a different pay. Like, ab dekhein, mujhe, like, if I ask this question from you, if you want to answer this question, please raise your hand. Don't start talking immediately. If like, we have discussed perhaps a bit of it, like, in the beginning of the class, that why in the organizations the pays are very different. Like, say, for example, one person is getting 10,000 rupees per month, and another person in the same organization is getting 10,100,000 rupees per month. So is this fair? Or the fairness, do you think, is that like, that everybody gets a 10,000 or everybody gets a 10,100,000 per month? So what is your understanding of fairness? And if this fairness does not exist, why that does not exist? And do you think like, this fairness or this particular kind of a way of remunerating people is correct or not correct? Yes, Assam. Yes, Assam, go on.
Sir, it depends upon the level of work he is doing.
Uh, Actually, as you have people told, okay, people are paid according to the designation they hold and the contribution they make to the revenues of the company. And do you think it is fair? It's a very difficult to define this kind of fairness into this kind of wages and salaries, because there is always a debate in the organizations, or there is always a trade-off between equity and efficiency. This creates efficiency, that makes people more efficient, because if you are paying them more because they are working more or they're contributing more or they're holding more responsible places, then actually that creates efficiency. But if you are basically paying equally to the people, that is create equity. But of course that actually discourages people to work harder, because they are not able to get what to reward for the things basically they are working. So Sabiruddin has written that depends on their experience and designation. If two persons are same, qualified and work for different company, but their salaries are different, one is high, two is low, it's not fair. That is to some extent correct. That is to some extent correct. But if at the same stage, the one person is more productive than other, like say for example, there are two marketing managers, and one marketing manager is earning you $1 million a month, and another is earning you $10 million a month. So although they both are marketing managers, they both are basically having uh, responsibility of marketing your products, but of course their contribution to the firms are quite different. One person is earning you $1 million and the other is earning you, say for example, $10 million. So you cannot basically of course they are actually at the same stage of their careers, they are actually working something similar, but their contribution of course are different. Of course, as Savera says, it depends on experience. Of course it does. Also depends on experience, but these days organizations do not look for your the number of years you have worked or the degree you hold. Generally, now they are concerned with your productivity, how productive you are, and what contribution you can make to the overall salary, overall revenues of the company. So Shehzad says efficiency are important in the work, then company decide what the payout is. So also depends on experience. Yes, very much. It depends on experience, no doubt about that. But that is very much tricky question, that whether any of the thing basically is uh, a kind of fair or not. That is something very much is important. Okay. So the eighth principle of Henry Fayol is centralization and decentralization. What kind of things basically depend, we have seen different kind of systems in different economies as well. Or in some organizations have got centralized commanding system. All the commands come from one source. Everything is controlled and directed by one particular source, and that basically is called centralization, center of the, like say for example in different kind of schools, there could be a possibility that everything is directed or directions come always from the head offices. The individual schools, say for example, or individual branches, say for example, if you talk about a bank, uh, all the directions for the bank if coming from the head office only, and the branch manager and the branches basically don't have got any power whatsoever to basically decide the basic strategic to take some important decisions. So that will be called centralization. But if some of the decisions are coming from the center, but majority of the decisions actually are based on the situation, like say for example, you are given freedom that you can decide accordingly. That is called the decentralization system. Like say, for example, in an organization, like say, for example, if you think about a bank, in the bank, basically, it could be a possibility that all the directions are coming from the head office, or all the directions basically depend on the individual situation and individual branches or condition of the branches. So if the branches are able to take their own decisions, this is decentralized system of management. Otherwise, there's a centralized system of management. We'll be talking in detail about like what are the pros and cons of this centralization and decentralization later on, and we shall be discussing that how this centralization or decentralization pay to the different organizations in different situations. All right, so there should be some scalar chain. There should be some top management, some middle management, some lower management. It should be there should be a kind of an order, uh, and uh, uh, and equity. There should be some kind of equity involved here, and equity means again that your things basically like whatever you are doing should be based on justice, and it should not be based on just your own kind of likes and dislikes, or it should not be based on unfair kind of things. So, okay. Another thing very important, another principle of Henry Fayol is that there should be stability and tenure. Uh, it is very important. There are some organizations where people do not stay for long, and that kind of organizations suffer. Like say, for example, if you have some kind of organization where people don't stay for long, there is a huge turnover. Like people come and go, people do not stay for long in your organization. That creates so much a kind of chaos in your organization, because if you are having a situation where you basically don't have got a one particular person for the same job for some time, like the people come and go, you always have got the fresh minds, you always have got fresh hands, you always have to train them, you have to always you whatever the people get experience, whoever get experience leaves your work, leaves your job or leaves your organization, and they do not stay with you, they don't basically work continuously with you. So whenever you just get new blood, you get new people on board, they are generally untrained, they are very raw, they don't understand the culture of the organization, they don't understand the missions of the organization, they do not understand the actually what exactly the organization is doing and how they are expected to perform in their works. So they basically become so difficult to handle, and it's always very costly for an organization to train people. So you should be giving them stability, and there should be some tenures, tenures in a sense you should be employing people for a certain period of time. You should be actually making them forcing them to stay for certain time. Like say, for example, when you some of the organizations when you work with, they ask you to sign a bond for certain time period, like say, for example, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, depending on the job and situation, and the basically investments they are making in you. So when you join an organization, they teach you how to work, how to perform, and how to control things and how to do things. But if you are not basically continuing with them, you are not you don't have got 10 years, you don't have got a proper term periods for serving, you are not stable, or you're not staying with that organization, that can cause a lot of trouble. So that is why they are 10 years. They are say, for example, when you just join an organization, you have to uh, give a kind of consent that you are going to stay for this organization for a certain period of time, because they don't want to have all the time new people, and they actually keep training them because they want to get things done with them. They don't always give them or keep them under the trainings. Another principle is the initiative, uh, like creativity. Uh, there is a very much a thing lacking in our people these days. that this entrepreneurship or creativity amongst the people, like there should be a freedom to take initiative, like because if you don't let people, like if you don't give a kind of a freedom to the people, like the initiative, like cannot come, and creativity will be suppressed. So another thing is esprit de corps. This esprit de corps actually means, like the teamwork. Esprit de corps is basically, like is related to like the loyalty, like it is a loyalty shared by members of group. Like say for example, when you join certain group, you basically become a part of it, and that basically makes you a proud part of that particular kind of organization. Like that you that actually is something very important, that you create a kind of affiliation among the people, or just trying to, like just create an image that actually make people proud to be associated with. Like say for example, if you work with some organization, and if you become a part of some good organization or good smart people, you feel pride in that, like that is what called esprit de corps. And this esprit de corps is important, like that for the teamwork, if you really want people to stick with you, you will have to create some kind of a pride in them. So these are all the kind of principles of Henry Fayol for motivation of the people, because if you really want them to uh, work harder, you will have to reward them uh, properly, and you will have to just provide them a kind of a situation where they basically have uh, stable positions, and they are treated equally. They have a kind of a, a relationship with the other people, and they are not basically, neglected. They are paid according to their uh, efforts. Hassam, do you want to say something?
Sir, please can you explain again point number 11, equity?
Equity is like the things basically perhaps is disturbing you will be the materials keeping, like the thing is basically, like the equity is uh, like when you think about equity, this is another very important question in economics. How do you define this efficiency equity debate in economics?
It
Have
is
you heard
the
about this debate? Not ownership.
ownership about business.
Not really. No, like when you think about, like say for example, think about the debate about the equity and efficiency in economics. What do you think about it? Like say for example, what is this debate?
Sir, no idea right
All
now,
right,
but
all right.
maybe one thing I have heard about equity is that it is the capital amount of capital a person invests on
No, no, no,
business,
no, no.
so
Like
he has
that
the
is,
rights. No,
yeah, no, that is basically, like that is it. That's why basically when I was in the first class, I was telling you that, every subject has got its own definitions, basically, right? What actually the equity means in economics is, like, say, for example, have you heard about the system of socialism and capitalism?
yes, sir.
What happens in the socialism? In the socialism, everyone is treated the same. So this is the basically, uh, the system in which all people are treated equally. That creates equity. Equity means, like that everybody is being treated the same treatment with everybody. But what about the capitalism? In the capitalism, the only those people are rewarded that basically work harder. Like say for example, this capitalism has created the people like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, and that all people. Now, what actually, I'm not going to actually like to confuse you with that kind of a concept here. Here, equity does not mean the owners share into the business. That's what something you need to make yourself clear about. Equity also means, like that particular kind of thing, but that is in accounting, and that you basically use as a kind of a share of owner in the organization. But here, the equity means that you should be treating everybody fairly. Do you know what I mean? Fair means, like equity is a kind of equality, like everybody should be treated equal. Everybody, like their treatment should be equal, their people should be treated, there should not be unequal or inequitable distribution of the resources. So this could be like, as Anila is saying, like, that equity, person to person behavior. And like, say for example, how are you treating different people? Like, it should be fair, it should not be unfair. Like unfair in the sense, आप देखेंगे बहुत सारे areas में आप जाएं, like say for example, if you go to the like different interior regions of Pakistan, you will find very very contrasting examples. Like say for example, some of the people you will find, they don't even have got meal for one time a day. And there are so many people who have got Land Cruisers, they have got Prados, they have got like all the motor cars, and they have got big houses and big a lot of money that basically they have. So this is inequitable. The people, some have got more. There is a difference between have and have not. That is in economics, but here equity also does something similar. Means equity means equality kind of a thing, or fairness in treatment. Does it make sense to you, Hassan?
Yes, sir, I got it.
All right, good. So some of the students were asking about the centralization and decentralization. Where should the commands be coming from? Your, like say for example, like here, if you have a decentralization system, in that decentralization, in the decentralization system, or when the systems are decentralized, all the things do not come from the center, do not come from one particular source. As I was telling you, think about a like branching network of a bank. There are 100 branches and there is a one head office. If every rule come from the head office, if all the things basically and all the decisions come from the head office, and for every decision they have to consult their head office, this is called a centralized system. But if individual branches are able to take decisions according to their situation and according to their problems, then it will be a decentralized system. All right. So Savera, does it make sense to you? Savera Bano? I hope yes. Okay, good. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Uh, like, why do you think people in the West or in the first world countries are a lot stable, in the sense like, they work harder, they work very much, efficiently, and that is why their economies are growing. Like say for example, if you compare the productivity of labor in Pakistan and the US or UK or Europe or somewhere else, you will find a very large difference between the efficiency of the people, like between these different nations. Why do you think the efficient why the people perform differently in different countries? Aapka kya khayal hai, if you want to answer this question, that why people in the first world countries are more efficient than in the third world countries? Why people basically like in some of the countries are, or why the labor is more productive in some regions than in some other regions? Like say for example, if you compare the labor of the US with the labor of Pakistan. Yes, Sumaira, what do you want to say?
जी सर, सर अगर हम कंपेयर करें पाकिस्तान को डिफरेंट कंट्रीज के साथ, जो हम कह सकते हैं तरक्की याफ्ता है, कि वहां पर लेबर क्यों सेटिस्फाइड है सर? वहां पर
I was asking you that why in different parts of the regions or world, basically people have got different kinds of efficiency. And you basically have mentioned this and very rightly mentioned that, like, in the places where you are socially secured, where your basic needs are met. Like say for example here, if say for example a person works 12 hours a day, he starts working at 8 o'clock in the morning and finishes work at 8 o'clock in the evening, and he takes a bus to reach at home, and he reaches home by 10 o'clock in the evening. And when he reaches there and he basically tries to take some rest, his light goes off. If his electricity goes off, and they basically like they are not able to sleep properly, they have to wait for the water the whole night. They have to wait for the water to get, like for their families the whole night. They are not able to sleep because they have to fill in their tanks with the water that comes once a week or twice a week or thrice a week kind of a thing, and you need that, and you don't have got big storage available so that you could actually store for so long. If your children get ill, you don't basically like have got a proper kind of facilities available to get them treated. You don't have enough money to take them to the hospitals. If God forbid your children gets very ill, if your children get ill so much, you don't have got the money to take them to the hospital. And similarly, there are so many needs which are unfulfilled, you are not able to meet your basic needs of your life. You are not able to have, you don't have security when you go outside. You don't have got a kind of other kind of things basically that you need to live a good life. So that actually makes you frustrated. There are so many people who basically are so much frustrated. If you go to the people, go outside, when you meet people, everybody is so frustrated, they are ready to fight with you for no reason, because they have got a lot of things basically that have been unfulfilled. They are not able to get what exactly they want. Like, say for example, if you go to the police stations, you are not treated well. If you go to the water supply corporations, you are not treated well. You don't get water, you don't get security, you don't get anything. So people basically are not able to perform well. They basically have to think about so many things to get things. So first of all, this is the Maslow basically who thinks about, or who has worked on, like say for example, if you look at Abraham Maslow, attempted to synthesize a large body of research related to human motivation, what motivates people to work harder and what makes them more efficient. Like the first needs according to him is the safety needs. I'll be explaining you that what do we mean by the safety needs. Then basically being a part of a society, he actually wants to have got have got some social needs. Then he has got self-esteem need, your ego is very important. Like say for example, if you are getting money but you are not being treated fairly, that basically might hurt your behavior, and that can cause. And the similar thing happen here in like developing countries. Here people, even the people who work, they are not respected. The people who are working, they are not actually treated well, because if you are a worker and you are a lower class worker, you are treated you are mistreated all the time, and that basically is very bad for the organization or any of the company. I'm sorry. And what if you are able to meet with your safety needs, social needs, self-esteem needs, you can actually realize your potential. You become a self-actualized person. You become a person who has actually the ability to perform the best. Like say for example, if you look at these kind of needs, if you think about the basic needs, which actually include physiological and safety needs. The physiological needs are basically basic needs. Nobody thinks about them in the developed world, but here you have to think about it. You have to arrange them. Like say for example, for you have to fetch water for your family. You have to buy generators to create or make use electricity. You have to buy gas cylinders to actually warm up your homes, or actually even run your stove. You don't get anything from the state per se. There are so many physiological needs. You need rest, you need warmth, you need water, you need food. So there are some basic needs that basically are not being met. Like say for example, आपको देखें यहाँ पर आपके घर में बिजली नहीं आ रही है, बिजली नहीं आ रही, तो what are you doing? You are basically arranging generators, you are arranging this or that thing. आपके घर में पानी नहीं आ रहा है, you are basically just getting a kind of inside bores in the in the earth basically, and you are basically trying to fetch water for yourself. You are putting donkey pumps, basically donkey pumps, to get the water in your at your home. You are actually fetching water manually in buckets or in different kinds of things basically to meet with your basic things. So they are the basic needs of the people. हम लोग, like say for example, if you go to Europe, आपको पता है कि यूरोप की बहुत सारे ममालिक में ऐसा होता है कि उनके घर में जो पानी आता है, that पानी, for that water they don't have got any tanks. Neither they have got underground tanks, nor they have got overhead tanks. Everywhere the water actually comes directly to their taps, and it never happens that the water is not coming into the tap. And even in some places, The both cold and warm water comes through the taps, and it never happens that you turn on the warm water tap and you don't get the warm water. So this is actually, that makes you like, that actually like, help you focus on something different. Like, here you always have to think about arranging water, arranging electricity, arranging gas for your home, but that should not be the case. It should be like, you should be able to meet with these physiological needs, and the organizations that basically pay you well and somehow they actually facilitate you, like, in different ways, they basically meet with these kind of needs. And there are also safety needs, like, you want to be secure. अब यहाँ पे आप देखें, if you are living in Karachi or you are living in some kind of other places, if you go out, आप सबसे ज्यादा आपको टेंशन होती है कि अपनी valuables की, like say for example you always are scared that somebody from the back will come, put the gun on your head and will take everything away from you. This is very, very bad. Like, it is making people sick. It is making people so much like, psychological patients, basically, because people are actually want to have safety needs. When they go out, they want to be secured. Uh, they want to have a situation where they basically, are able to move freely or securely in the environment. So your basic needs includes the safety needs, which actually includes security, safety, and basic food, basic clothes, basic shelter, basic water, basic warmth, and they are all the basic needs. Then you have got psychological needs. Here, if you think about the developing countries, I'm not necessarily taking the name of Pakistan. Here, all the people keep struggling at this stage only. Initially, they are not able to, so they are not able to meet with the basic water or food or other kind of needs, and similarly security. So how come they can think about other things? Like, this psychological needs come very far, and that basically are not generally like, people don't think here about, like, the psychological needs. Here their physiological needs are not being fulfilled. So how come you can think about psychological needs? Psychological needs include, like, self-esteem needs. You need prestige, you need respect in the society. Like, say for example, when you go outside or to the organizations, you are treated well, you are treated fairly. And similarly, you have got relationships. Like, the people, basically we are social animals. We actually live in a society where we want to have friends. Like, we want to have, like, the most Vara, please, what actually, like, you just unmute your mic and there is so much disturbance from your mic. Who is Vara, please? Like, keep your mics off. I am just turning your mic off, but you just somehow you turn it on. So please keep your mics off. Vara, who is Vara? So psychological needs are important, that you need to be belonged to someone. You need love, you need relationships, you need friends. The most poor person is the person who doesn't have got any friends. So if you don't have friends, if you don't have got, like, relationships, like say for example, the organizations do not take care of your psychological needs. Like, they don't ever take you, like, they don't take even the take care of your basic needs, and they don't take your psychological needs. Then you will be a very, very demotivated person and you will not be able to perform well. But if somehow a person is able to meet with all of his needs, food, water, warmth, rest, security, safety, relationships, friends, prestige, and feeling of accomplishment, he becomes a self-actualized person. Vara, what's wrong with your mic, please? So he becomes, or she becomes, a self-actualized person. He basically, like, is able to achieve his full potential. And you can only attain your self potential, like the people in the developed world actually are able to attain their full potential because they are able to meet with all of their needs. Here in Pakistan or in the countries, the developing countries, people are generally not able to meet with their all needs, because, and that is what make them very much demotivated, discouraged, and, like, they are not able to get what exactly they are looking for. So so this is, like, when you are able to, when you are actually, like, are having a kind of a situation when people are not able to meet with their basic needs, when the people are not able to meet with their psychological needs, they cannot realize their whole potential. So if you want people to realize their potentials, you will have to provide them all the needs that basically they have in their lives.